It is the closest a film has ever come to simulating driver's fatigue that sets in on a long drive. Agreed?
I'm just here to do the podcast, man.
Okay. Uh, Hear me out. These are my theories. So I broke them down into a few different categories. Regarding identity and subjectivity, around 4 minutes in, it's like Jake is hearing her thoughts suggesting merging identities. Around the same time, we see a reflection of Lucy in a cracked mirror suggesting something suspicious about her identity. At an hour and 50 minutes, toward the end of the movie, the janitor speaks to Lucy telepathically, much like the way Lucy will speak to Jake telepathically through her thoughts in the car. Lucy keeps getting calls from herself, further hinting that this is all in Jake's mind, which is fractured. The calls are like mental pings or glitches in Jake's mental simulation. The fact that the name changes from Lucy to Yvonne or Louisa suggests that Lucy represents numerous loves in Jake's life. Around 12 minutes in, Lucy notices crust on Jake's mouth and doesn't even react to it, but he becomes self-conscious about it as if he heard her thoughts. Around 15 minutes and again at 18 minutes, Lucy looks eerily directly into the camera. Another hint that rather than being a real character in the story, she is just a device to tell the story, interacting directly with the viewer. After finishing reciting her poem, Jake tells her it's like something she wrote about him. Around 28 minutes in, we get the slippers metaphor, with Jake literally offering Lucy the ability to walk in his shoes, even saying, "My slippers are your slippers," because she is him, or at least a figment inside his imagination. 30 minutes in, Lucy is looking around Jake's house and says it reminds her of a house that she grew up in, probably because it is the house she grew up in, because she is in Jake's memory. 41 minutes, Lucy starts emulating the mom, her mannerisms, her stuttering, relying on Jake to give her the words that she can't seem to find. Nothing like the well-versed Lucy that we got to know on the car ride. At an hour and 14 minutes on the drive back, Lucy becomes the one who is now finishing Jake's sentences for him. Also around this time, she begins smoking a cigarette out of nowhere, and her voice noticeably changes as she becomes more assertive and less patient with Jake than the soft-spoken, passive Lucy that we've come to know. Around 50 minutes in, Lucy looks at a childhood photo of Jake, clearly a young boy, and swears that it is a photo of her. At around 55 minutes in, Lucy puts her head on the dad's shoulder in a way that seems so out of place for her character to do, but if you consider her to be an avatar for Jake at another time in his life, it makes more sense. Around an hour and 5 minutes in, Lucy suggests that she doesn't know where she ends and Jake begins. Every time Lucy says that she wants to go home, Jake clarifies to the farmhouse, which is his home. This section is regarding time, memory, and aging. At around 9 minutes on their drive out, Lucy notices the brand new swing set in front of the abandoned home, an early hint that time is fractured with past, present, future taking place simultaneously. At around 22 minutes, she says they are both dead as they pull up to Jake's parents' house, and then as they pull up to the school around an hour and 40 minutes in, she starts to tell him she's thinking of ending things. At around 27 minutes, Lucy says a telling line: other animals live in the present, but humans cannot, so they invented hope. Like the movie telling on itself, humans' inability to live in the present. If you think about it, oftentimes we're yearning for or regretting the past, or we're hopeful for or dreading the future. We are always mentally time traveling. The film just imagines what that would look like applied to a visual narrative. At around 30 minutes, when they first get to the house, Jake keeps acting like his mom is about to come down, but it takes forever, suggesting fractured time, or the way it can stretch, pause, or loop as we get hung on a thought inside our head. At around 48 minutes, when Jake and Lucy are talking in the living room, you can hear the parents yelling and arguing in the other room, which seems totally out of context and is not acknowledged at all by Lucy or Jake, suggesting that these are just echoes in Jake's subconscious. At around 52 minutes, the mom asks if Jake remembered his 50th birthday, another hint that we are outside of time. Parents age and de-age throughout scenes. Around an hour and 2 minutes, there's a door labeled Mom's room after Dad died. At around an hour and 11 minutes, Mom's on her deathbed and now Dad appears younger again. Lucy's sweater disappears and reappears, suggesting fractured memory or perspective. These changes seem to occur as the calls come in with different names. When Lucy calls, she's wearing the knitted black and orange jumper. When Louise calls, she's wearing the black and fawn jumper. When Yvonne calls, she's wearing the long and sleeved blouse and dress. I think these are different females in Jake's life, and we never get his mother's name, but I would bet that it is Yvonne, because when Yvonne calls, that's when Lucy begins to emulate Jake's mother. And if you notice, based on the wallpaper patterns in the home, likely chosen by Jake's mother, the dress that Lucy is wearing seems like a pattern that Jake's mother would choose for herself. To dig deeper into that, the pattern can always be seen underneath the sweaters that she wears, suggesting the Freudian theory that the women men end up with are really just emulations of their moms. The house is almost like a palace of memories, with the basement serving as the location where trauma is stored. You get the scratch on the door. Jake says he hates the basement. He even comes right out and says he's hiding in there, obviously talking about himself. When Lucy walks down into the basement and turns around, she sees Jake looking down at her. When Jake disappears, all we see is snow, abstractly and inexplicably blowing around from inside the house. This is a premonition of the final traumatic moment of Jake's life, his suicide, willfully dying of hypothermia in his truck to be buried under a mound of snow. Also in the basement, we see posters for the artist Ralph Albert Blakelock, who in real life spent the latter part of his life in and out of mental institution as his mental health rapidly declined. Another hint about the state of Jake's mind and why, if this whole film takes place in his mind, it is so unreliable. This next section is fantasy versus reality. 33 minutes in, the wet dog that never dries suggests a looping memory, a traumatic looping memory. 49 minutes in, Jake apologizes for the smell of the dog. He is aware in his subconscious that the dog is dead, so he is aware of the smell. 57 minutes in Jake's childhood room, we see the dog's urn, confirming that the dog is dead, which confirms that we are existing in a space where time is fluid. At 46 minutes in, the fake Robert Zemeckis rom-com suggests intrusive media fantasies, something that Jake and Lucy discuss in the car. At an hour and 6 minutes, the story of how Jake and Lucy met changes. At dinner, they met during a trivia night when Lucy was out with their friends. When Jake tells his dad how they met, he went to a restaurant where Lucy worked. This suggests again that Lucy represents different people in Jake's life. Around the 90-minute mark, Tulsi Town. You get the two mean girls only look at Jake. Jake doesn't want them to see him. Lucy recognizes the other worker, even though supposedly Jake is the only one that's ever been there. The girls and Jake's hands both have abrasions on them. Like Jake, the girl apologizes for the smell, saying it isn't varnish like she previously claimed. The girl doesn't want Lucy to go with Jake, offering to let her stay with them. I think the two pretty girls represent the girls that made fun of Jake in high school, but we are inside of his mind where he wishes they would have adored him, which is why they inexplicably are seeming to look at him lovingly and flirtatiously. The other worker represents a previous love interest of Jake's, someone who cares for him. If Lucy is just a representation of Jake, and this is all in Jake's mind, then the girl is aware of the final outcome, which is why she doesn't want Lucy, aka Jake, to go to the school. But this is timeless, so like the dog, Jake is already dead, hence the smell. It is further confirmed that Lucy and the girl at the restaurant are both stand-ins within Jake's memory when Lucy momentarily becomes the girl from Tulsi Town when they are driving in the car again around 95 minutes in. Shortly after that happens, we see Jake lose his temper in a fit of rage, seemingly out of nowhere, before calling Lucy Ames, possibly short for Amy. Does the girl at the restaurant represent a girl named Amy who was a past love interest of Jake's? In the school parking lot, around an hour and 45 minutes, Lucy loses her temper in a very similar fashion to Jake. At an hour and 45 minutes, all the bird cups suggest another loop, like what happens to memories in a fragmented mind. An hour and 55 minutes, the dance sequence representing a metaphorical battle between young hope and old regret. What I take from the dance sequence is the story of a young man with hopes and dreams to be an artist or a physicist who fell in love with a woman, but he ended up not realizing his dreams, becoming a janitor, bitter and violent with a temper that cost him his relationships, leaving him to be the lonely old man that we see pacing the halls at the high school. My last section is Jake is the janitor, and we are inside of his mind. At around 10 to 15 minutes in, Jake discusses the school production of the Oklahoma performance, which is clearly from the janitor's perspective. We see this again around 1 hour and 25 minutes in. At an hour, Jake's dad says every cloud has a silver. At 1 hour and 21 minutes in, Jake echoes this sentiment. This could easily be a son emulating his father, but I think it is another hint that this is all taking place in Jake's mind. These are all his thoughts. 1 hour, 8 minutes, when Lucy is in the basement, she finds a washer full of shirts with the RHS emblem on them. This is the janitor's uniform. At an hour and 52 minutes, the janitor offers Lucy the same pair of slippers, a confirmation that he is Jake and they embrace each other like old lovers. In summary, around 1 hour 15 minutes in, Lucy says that it's like we're stationary and time is moving through us. As I get older, I can feel my relationship with time evolving. If you think about kids, they seem like they don't know the difference between 5 minutes and 5 hours, but as we get older, it's almost like we revert back to a similar distorted perception of time, like something could be 20 years ago and feel like 5 years ago. So maybe it isn't our ability to understand time that changes, maybe it's the actual way that we experience time that's changing, and we are always understanding time exactly as it's happening to us. The movie is an old Jake reminiscing on his life before he commits suicide, sorting through his relationships, his traumas, his hopes, his dreams. Why is Lucy needed to be the center point of this story then? Because like Jake's father hinted during the dinner scene, he doesn't know how to feel about something unless there is someone there to show him how he should feel. An empty landscape cannot be sad or happy without a subject existing in the landscape to express those emotions in order to inform him how he should feel. Jake uses Lucy as the same device to inform his emotions as he sorts through his past. The movie ends with one final fantasy of how Jake wished his life turned out, stealing moments from a film, A Beautiful Mind, that he grew up watching. That's my theories. Do you have a retort? You want to go right into these questions that I asked ChatGPT for?
Neither.
Okay. Real quick, before you go, there was a few things that I noticed during the editing that I had not picked up on before we shot this episode, and I would kick myself if I didn't mention these before you go. Regarding Jake and Lucy being the same person, in the casting, you have Jesse Plemons and Jesse Buckley playing these two lead characters, so that's just like another like happy accident maybe that happened in the casting that also further lends to the idea that these two characters are the same person, because essentially they're played by actors who are both Jesse. 30 minutes into the movie, when they first go into the house, there's a sign right above the place that Jake grabs the slippers from, and that sign says "call again," which I think is like a subconscious message that Jake is sending to himself within this simulation to like keep calling Lucy to try to break the loop of what's happening here. And lastly, when they are in the living room with the parents and Lucy gets another call, she goes to look for her glasses, and for some reason they're in Jake's pocket. Almost another little hint that they are the same person. They are his glasses, they're in his pocket, it's all one and the same. That's it, I'm done now. Thank you for watching this theory. Check out the full episode coming Thursday, July 10th. Bye.